respected Sister Jacinta Quadras, the principal of STELLA College, Vijayawada, Shri Durga Prasadji, the director of Takshashila IS Academy, other dignitaries on the dais, Shri Vishwavardhan Reddy, Shri Narendra Raju, Shri Ramesh Naidu, my dear young students, brothers and sisters, Namaskaram and good morning to all of you again. It's a great delight for me that I have been invited to interact with you on a very important topic, and when I got the intimation that such a program is being organized and I am being invited, I didn't know that all of you are aspiring civil servants. So after coming here, this new information that I have got, that makes this function all the more important, all the more significant, because we are discussing a topic very significant, very important for the future of our country. See, we are all at a point of history that India is poised to become one of the powerful, prosperous countries of the world. At present, we are the 5th largest economy. Maybe in a couple of years, we will be one among the top 3 economies of the world. And in every sphere of development and progress in the nation, we are progressing at such a fast pace that perhaps some of the statistics that come to our attention, India, the compeer here was telling that India is not a nation, it is a subcontinent. I would say that it is a continent, not only a subcontinent, because if you go look at the statistics, the figures and the statistics for Europe, the entire Europe can be, if it is compared to India, India would be ahead of Europe. That is the level of progress that that is happening in our country. And at this point of history, at this point of a significant moment for India, we are debating a topic which is most relevant for the progress of the country. And especially, I would like to stress upon this point that you are all in the undergraduate courses or just completed undergraduate and you are in the postgraduate courses, some of you. I am sure that another 60-70 years you will be contributing to the progress of the nation. You remember that in 2022, India celebrated the 75th year of India's independence. I was there when the Prime Minister addressed from the ramparts of the Red Fort the whole nation on Independence Day in 2021. That was 15th August 2021. So we were entering the 75th year. He reminded every one of us that we have completed 74 years. We are entering into the 75th year of our independence as a nation. And from the moment where we started in 1947 when we got independence, India has progressed a lot. India was considered to be a country who was going around the world with begging bowl for even food grains at a certain point of time. Now we have surplus food grains. We export food grains to the world. I remember during the COVID times when we had decided that we will not export wheat and sugar. When I went to the UN, many countries, prime ministers and presidents wanted to meet me to request that India should consider us, that means their country, as a friend and should not apply the rule that we have announced as a general rule, and they should be considered as an exception. Of course, we did that. We came to the help of many countries who were in need of food grains. Again, during the COVID, when many countries of the world, the so-called very powerful developed countries, when they produced vaccines, they produced it only for their countrymen. But we were the only country in the whole world who were ready, and benevolently we supplied to every needy country in the whole world. I remember, you might have seen some of the videos. One foreign minister, she was telling in a UN meeting where I was also present, she said that I am alive today because of India. Because if you had not provided vaccines to my country, you would have perished during the COVID. So what I meant to say is, in 2021 when the Prime Minister mentioned this, that we have come away, we have progressed a lot from the position we were in 1947 to the position where we are now. But still, Prime Minister reminded all of us that those who laid down their lives for attaining independence for the country, they had a dream in their minds. They had dreamt of a country. They had a vision of a country. And he asked whether we have been able to realize that vision. And of course he said that for us to realize that vision and to realize that dream, that our forefathers who fought for the independence of this country, who laid down their lives, who sacrificed their entire life for the country's progress, if we have to realize that, we have to make efforts in the coming years. So that vision to be realized, they had a dream, they had a vision of a developed nation. We are still not considered as a developed nation. In the world, people classify nations as developing nations and developed nations. We are considered to be a developing nation. So the Prime Minister mentioned and gave a call. We are entering the 75th year of India's independence. Let us all take a pledge and strive to realize the dreams of those who laid down their lives for a developed India, for an independent India. We are an independent India, but we have not attained that position of a developed India. So let us keep it as our target and goal, that by the time when we celebrate the centenary of India's independence, we will become a developed India. So I am happy that I don't know how many of us will be there to, of course, Durga Prasad seemed to be a person comparatively who can witness that developed India of 2047. I wish all of you also. But I am sure about all of you are sitting in front of me, that you will be the people who will be living in a developed India and taking India further ahead. So In this context, today's topic is of utmost significance, because if we have to attain that position of developed India, lot of work has to undertake to be done. Lot of preparations are required to be done, and those preparations have to be there in many fields. I was told by the principal that you have the 4-year course honors. 1968 was the last education policy reform that happened. Major policy reform. 86, of course, there was another new education policy at that time. But even if we consider 86, it is 38 years ago. So after 38 years, we are undergoing through a structural change of the educational system. So you will have, after 4 years of your undergraduate education, you will pass out with honors degrees. And then that will provide you 1 year less for your post-graduation. And it will also give you a peek into the research methodology. Because the PhD that is done, PhD is ultimately training one in the research methodology. That is the purpose of PhD. It's not that somebody who does a PhD becomes the authority of that topic. It's not so. It's a training mechanism. So all of you who are here as part of this 4-year course, the structural change that is happening in education, that is aimed at preparing ourselves for become the global leaders in education. That's why we have universities where we have tie-up with foreign universities. We want to have Indian education to regain that position where we have fortunately the Takshashila IAS Academy, and that was the name of one of the best universities in the whole world centuries ago. Nalanda, Takshashila and Vikramshila. So the people, the students from across the world, those who were in search of knowledge, they came over to learn in these universities of India. So that position has to be recreated. And then we have the largest youth manpower in the whole world. Under the percentage of people, the youngsters I can say below the age of 40, the largest such manpower is in India. And the whole world is in search of manpower. I went to Japan last year, and in Japan people were telling that Japan is aging. They don't find youngsters. They want youngsters for many jobs, but they want people who knows German language. I don't know how many of you learn German, Japanese language. I mean, Japanese language. How many of you learn? Japan is in need of youngsters, skilled manpower. I met the people in Suzuki. So they said that we welcome people from India because India has the skilled manpower. India should have the skill. India has the largest youth manpower. Then there are countries in Europe, there are countries in US. US hospitals doesn't have medical personnel who are trained, required, whatever the number is required, they are in shortage. So the whole world is in search of manpower. That's why the Prime Minister mentioned India should become the skill capital of the world. And we have to train our youth. We have this manpower, but they are not skilled. Last year we had the G20, year before last. G20, you know, we were chairing the G20. And then during the G20 there was a P20, that is parliamentarians of all the 20 countries came together. in Delhi. So the Speaker of Korea, South Korea, he was sitting next to me. So I was very happy because Korea is the same size of Kerala. I am from Kerala. 38,000 square kilometers. That is the size. But do you know what is the GDP of Korea? Their GDP is much larger, many times larger than that of India. Why? Because they have 90% skilled manpower, 95% skilled manpower, and we have 5 to 6% skilled manpower. So in this era, it is not just degrees and education that matters. What matters is skill. What skills do you possess? So what I meant to say is, these are all the various efforts going on. So India cannot become a developed nation just by becoming one of the 3 greatest economies, or from there to become the number 1 economy in the world. We need to have our manpower skill. We need to have very good infrastructure. That's why roads are getting constructed. That is why railways are getting constructed. That is why railways are getting electrified. We are having Vande Bharat trains. Even the bullet train is going to come to Ahmedabad to Mumbai in maybe 1 or 2 years. The work is going on. Because the bullet trains in Japan, you can travel one day 1200 kilometers. I traveled in one single day almost 1200 kilometers, and in between I had stopovers at 3-4 places where I had meetings with the university students and various other people. And then can we imagine that in India? We can't. We cannot travel from one end of Andhra Pradesh to the other end of Andhra Pradesh and in between have some programs. Because they have trains which run at a speed of 300 to 350 kilometers per hour. Our trains are 120, 130. Vande Bharat, that is the speed that we have kept, 130. We aim to make it 160 and maybe beyond that. But our coaches are being redesigned. The other day we were travelling together, Ashwini Vaishnav, who is the railways and electronics minister, from Bhubaneswar to Chennai. We reached at Chennai airport at 11:30. So I asked him, are you going to the guest house to take rest? No. He said that I have to go to Perambur, Integral Coach Factory. The new coach the design is getting ready. So I have to go and see that. Because that new coach, which is lighter in weight, it will make travel faster. So that's why all these things are happening. And in that context, I want you to look at this one nation, one election in that context. One nation, one election is not an isolated effort. It's an effort as part of the various efforts that is going on to make India a developed nation by 2047. And what is the role of that one nation, one election in the development of the country, making India a developed nation? Because the various issues that came during the discussions of the Law Commission, of the Election Commission, of the Parliamentary Standing Committee, they felt that this election process that is now happening, for example, I was told that last almost a month, there was a code of conduct in Andhra Pradesh because the graduates constituency election to the upper house of Andhra Pradesh Legislative Assembly was happening, MLC, graduates and teachers constituency. So one election. So 30 days no activity. Every activity is stalled. And before that, fortunately you had both Lok Sabha and that is the Parliament and Assembly elections together. So almost 60 days, because the election was announced sometime in March, beginning of March, and the results came in the month of May. So it is March, April, May, around 80 days code of conduct. No policy decision, no developmental activity, everything has to be stalled. As I told you, I am from Kerala. Next year we are going to have the assembly elections. So we are not as fortunate as you are, because you get only 18 days of code of conduct in the entire 5 year. We had this 80 days last year. Again next year we will have another 60 days, because the state assembly will have its election. So if you look at the entire country, Government of India will not be able to function every year at least 2 to 3 months. Very recently you had the Delhi elections, and just before that, because when the Delhi election happened, Election Commission told the Finance Ministry, because the Delhi election was on 8th of February. 1st of February, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji presented the budget. Election Commission gave a direction to the Finance Ministry that you should not make any announcements that will have direct impact on the people of Delhi, because it is influencing the Delhi voters. It should not be done. There should be a level playing field. So government should not get an undue benefit. So naturally the Finance Minister will be at constraints. Before that you had the Maharashtra election. Before that you had the Haryana election. You had the Jharkhand election. You had the Jammu Kashmir election. All this happened. It is not even 1 year after the Lok Sabha election, and in between we had all these elections. So the entire country is in an election mode. Many of you who are not very well versed with what is happening in the whole country about elections and all, you would be feeling definitely, you would have thought many times that what is this? Every month there is one or the other election. Unless you are a very serious student of politics, an ordinary person would feel that every time there is an election, every 6 months there is an election. And that election, see, in our whole country, we have almost more than 1 million polling booths and around 6 to 7 million, 70 lakh personnel across 12,03,800 polling stations. That is averaging about 6 officials per station. And these polling booths which are located in schools gets closed, and education staff, they are assigned election duties. So there will be a training program for officials who are in the election duty. So these things affect the development of the nation. These things affect the progress of the nation. Then the operational efficiency and resource optimization, that gets distracted, divided when elections happen too often. Again, the democracy, India is considered to be one of the vibrant democracies. Whole world, when you consider, India is one of the countries which had adult franchise irrespective of caste, creed, gender and economic classifications. Many of those countries, even US, we say that they are a democracy since more than 2 centuries, but in the initial stages women didn't have the right to vote. And UK, again, UK is considered to be, because we follow the Westminster form of government. UK didn't have, women didn't have right to vote. But as far as India is considered, the right from the first election when we got independence, we had adult franchise. That means anybody who is adult, and that age has changed from what it was earlier to what it is now. It was 21 years earlier, now it is 18. Everyone, irrespective of any other consideration, they all have the right to elect their representative. So that's why I said that India is a vibrant democracy. Prime Minister, and during the G20 also, people have been terming India not only as a vibrant democracy or the largest democracy, but as a mother of democracy. Democracy was not born, as some people believe, somewhere in the Western concept. Democracy was very much an Indian concept. That is why we have got many scriptures in Karnataka from various other countries, various other parts of our country, where people participated in electing their leader. Who should govern them? People used to decide. The concept of kings, that came later on. Kings by birth. King's son becomes a king. That became later on. Initially, the ruler was elected, decided, selected by the people. That concept was there in India. That's why I said that India is a vibrant democracy. India is considered as the mother of democracy. And in such a country, we should have, everyone should participate in that process. See, in our country we have the Gram Sabha, that is a village council, where people will decide what is development, what is meant by development for them. Ultimately, it is not, see, if you want a bridge in your village, it cannot be decided by somebody sitting in Delhi. It cannot be decided by somebody sitting in the state capital. It will have to be decided by the people who need that. So that's why we have the Panchayati Raj institutions, where the decision will be taken at the lowest level of the village. So we have village level local self-governments, we have the state governments, we have the central government or the national government. So the elections to these, if it happens at 3 different times, once in 5 years, if these 3 elections happens independently, you will have election every other year. Alternate years you will have election. The expenditure, the manpower, and ultimately it affects the development of the country, the progress of the country. That is why this idea of one nation, one election, that one nation, one election is being mooted since long. And for your information, many of you, I know that all of you were born in this century. Those who are sitting in front of me. None of you were born before 2000. So, but if you look at the history of elections in India, we got independence in 47. We had the first elections in 1952. Till 67, elections were simultaneously being held for the parliament and the assembly. 67, during 67 to 71, 72, many things happened. Like some state assemblies got dissolved, some governments were dismissed. Then during the period of the emergency, when entire democratic process was suspended, the elections which was to happen in 72 or so, it got postponed, and then the term of the parliament also got postponed without bringing any amendment to the constitution. So 67 onwards, the schedule of elections got, I can say, either disturbed or it was happening at separate timings. That simultaneous elections, that process got disrupted. So now it is now more than 50 years, 55, 57 years or more than 50 years, the practice of having simultaneous elections was discontinued. So this has affected, as I mentioned, and this has affected the voter participation also. Sometimes what people do, anyhow, what do we do, because this government is not performing well, but there is no opposition worth challenging that government. What is the purpose of voting? Voter apathy. Then some people develop a thinking, last year also I went to vote, 2 years ago also I went to vote, and nothing has happened, why should I vote? Then these type of various thinkings, and then some people state, let it happen, I will vote for parliament election. Or some people feel, municipality, I don't worry, whoever may want to rule, let them rule. I am worried only about the state and the national elections. So when the elections are held in segregated way, the information, I am speaking on the basis of the information and statistics, the percentage of the polling, there was a variation from 7 to 20% from one election to the other. So the voter apathy, the participation of people, it gets reduced. You might have seen many of the metro town cities, metros, the polling percentage is somewhere around 50%. Because many people go to their villages, they don't stay in the cities. And this, when we say that we are a vibrant democracy, 100% voting should happen, because we are a responsible citizen. And if 100% voting doesn't happen, it means that people are not interested in democracy. It's not that they are not interested, because they are bored sometimes. They feel that they have some other problems. So how to solve all these issues? That is how the discussion about one nation, one poll, that started. And in the many countries in the world, many of the European countries, last year I was in Australia, I was in Belgium. These countries have got simultaneous elections, and they feel that it has benefited them. So I would say I can quote the election, the Law Commission of India in 1999. Law Commission in its 170th report on reforms of electoral laws, and I quote from the Law Commission's report, this cycle of elections every year and in the out of season should be put an end to. Out of season means sometimes we know that when the whole country goes to election, some of you might have gone to Kulu Manali and all those areas. This complete snow. December, January, February, even up to March. Therefore, yesterday we might have seen, I don't know, any of those from Vijayawada had gone to Kulu Manali. There was a landslide, there was snowfall. The engineering students from Trivandrum had gone, and they called me. We are stuck here. Can you do something? We are stuck in the traffic. For our food also we don't have any assistance. So there is snowfall areas are there. You cannot have elections during this period when if the whole country has elections. And India's climate, Here now you have 36% degree temperature. Yesterday I was looking at the Vijayawada temperature. Daytime it is 36, 37. And Delhi today morning when I came, I started from my apartment where I stay. It was 14 degrees. You cannot go out without a sweater. So these climatic conditions vary. So one will have to identify a most suitable, convenient time which is applicable for the whole country. So that's why the Law Commission said. So we must go back to the situation where the elections to Lok Sabha and all the legislative assemblies are held simultaneously. Indeed, we cannot conceive or provide for all the situations and eventualities that may arise, whether on account of the use of Article 356. As I mentioned to you, Article 356 gives the authority to the Government of India to dismiss a government which is elected in a particular state if the Government of India feels or the governor of that state feels that the state government is unable to control the situation of that state or for other reasons. Yet, holding a separate election to a legislative assembly should be an exception and not the rule. The rule should be one election once in 5 years for Lok Sabha and all the legislative assemblies, unquote. This is the recommendation of the Law Commission of India. Again, the Parliament has a standing committee on personnel, public grievance, law and justice. 2015, the Parliamentary Standing Committee took up this topic. Parliamentary Standing Committees, they take up one or two topics for detailed discussion, which affects, that is, all of your public policy, studying public policy. Public policy is framed like that. Parliament discusses, they invite stakeholders, they invite interested people, they conduct hearings traveling across the country, and then get the opinion of the people. So this committee on personnel and public grievance, whose chairman at that time was Mr. Sudarshan, Nachiyappa Sudarshan, he was a member of the Congress party. He was chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee. And that committee recommended an alternative and practical method of holding simultaneous elections. He said that let it be at least in 2 phases. All these 3 elections, entire country, and when you say the entire country, the enormity of the size is 543 Lok Sabha seats, 4,123 MLA seats, 233 Rajya Sabha seats, and in states like Andhra Pradesh, there are 6 states in the whole country. Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Telangana and Uttar Pradesh, where there is an upper house in the state, that is the Legislative Council. They have 367 members in that. So this is the size, and beyond that is what I mentioned, the local bodies. So these elections, if it has to happen, this the time that varies. That is why the government decided on the basis of all these proposals. Election Commission also. Election Commission, it also suggested that elections should be simultaneously held as far as possible. So that is why the government at present, under the Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, it formed a high-level committee. How this should be done? There should be a democratic process. And I consider this also to be a process where the views of the citizens of the country are taken. So there was a high-level committee chaired by the former President Shri Ramnath Kovind. This committee was formed in March 2024. And let me remind you, this is the first time in these 76 years of India's independence that a constitutional amendment is being discussed at such a wider level among the people, and a high-level committee under the chairmanship of a former President of India is formulated. to discuss the various aspects of this. So that committee, they contacted all the political parties, they contacted many of the former Supreme Court judges. Elections, people vote separately, means during the election also, there will be a vote for the parliament and there will be a vote for assembly. And in our country, people are well aware and they are well educated to decide and make their options, even if they feel that for the whole country I will vote for this party, but for the state I will vote for this party, which would be different. Because we have seen regional parties who raise the state level issues, they get represented at the national, into the parliament as well as to the state. So there is no such national issue. There are some issues which are affecting the whole country. There are issues which affects each state. So people will take very conscious decision, very much conscious decision on whom should I vote for state and whom should I vote for the parliament. And we have experience of such things. When elections were held together also, the people decided one party for parliament, another party for state. So the apprehension that people will have confusion about state issue and national issue, that is unfounded. So we need not worry about that part at all. Thank you.
Sir, you told that elections are conducted simultaneously after independence, that is 1952, 1957, 1962 and 1967. And why did they stop in 1971, that elections?
No. The reason was,
you get a term for the unexpired period. It may be anywhere between 5 years to 6 months. So isn't this a violation of Article 14 right to equal?
court judges were consulted, former High Court Chief Justices were consulted, former Chief Election Commissioners were consulted. So they submitted a very elaborate report running into thousands of pages. And then the high level committee recommended that the constitutional amendment will have to be undertaken. Basically, two major amendments, like the duration of the Houses of Parliament, which is discussed in Article 83, duration of State Assembly which is discussed in Article 172, and then for the allow simultaneous elections in panchayats and municipal bodies under 324A, empower Election Commission of India to create a common electoral roll. I don't know how many of you are aware that the voters list, electoral roll that is prepared by the Election Commission of India for conducting elections to state assemblies and parliament is different from the electoral roll that is prepared to hold elections for the corporation and municipal elections. Many people who enroll themselves, see, once somebody becomes 18 years of age and immediately there is a parliament election, we get our name registered. And many of the voters feel that I have registered myself. So when the corporation election happened, we feel that my name is there, I have registered last 6 months ago. No, this role is entirely different. So why should one be asked to register twice? The compliance burden for a law-abiding citizen should be the minimum. That is why when Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji came to power, he said that all of you who will be appearing for various competitive exams, what was the situation earlier, you are not aware, because Many of you are now just 20, 19, 20 age group. 10 years ago, if you have to apply for a job, you have to get your certificates attested by a gazetted officer. How would you do that? You will have to go to the gazetted officer, that is either the Tehsildar, Taluk officer or the block development officer, wait on his veranda, hours together, your time is lost in that. And what he has to do? He has to say that the copy that is produced is the same, is a replica of the original. See, when you apply for a job, this gazetted officer's attestation is not required. Attestation should be self-attestation. So it is again reducing the compliance burden. Unnecessarily compliance. Considering, see, all these things came when British ruled India. Because British felt that these Indians cannot be believed. Because they were under that impression, because Indians are all thieves, Indians are all liars. So then you should get it certified. Now we are being ruled by our own people. India is a free democratic country. So why should the government disbelieve the citizens of the country? Why should government feel that unless you prove yourselves to be true, you are telling a lie? That should not be the system. That is why self-attestation. So what I meant to say is, this separate electoral rules. So all these things, and how will it benefit? Because of this doing simultaneous elections, Ramnath Kovindji committee says it will be a game changer, that it would boost India's GDP by 1.5%. And 1.5% of GDP is almost, I can say, the 33% of the cost of education that is spent by the government of India and all the state governments put together. It will be 50% of the government's healthcare expenditure. So we will get more and more hospitals, we will get more and more colleges, we will get more and more infrastructure. So almost 4.5 lakh crore rupees would be saved. Then, as I mentioned, disruption to governance and public policy. So all these issues, that is why the high level committee gave a report, and now the parliament has taken it up. Parliament, the first amendment, 129th amendment of the Indian Constitution, 129th amendment has been moved, and that it enables simultaneous elections for state assemblies and Lok Sabha. Article 83 is being amended, Article 172 is being amended, and Article 327 is being amended. Now it has gone to the Parliamentary Standing Committee. There is a joint parliamentary committee. That joint parliamentary committee will hold wider discussions, it will hold discussions at very wide level, and then they will report back to the parliament. If any one of you have, those who are studying public policy and others, if you have seen how many of you have seen the parliament functions in YouTube? Anybody has seen? You haven't seen? Principal, I would request you that the parliament will again convene next Monday onwards. Some day when, I don't want you to show the unruly scenes in parliament to all of them because sometimes that also happens. Huh? Is it to assembly? Yeah, youth parliament. So parliament is 11 to 1 and 2 to 6. That is the time of parliament. 1 hour is question hour in the morning hours. 1 hour is question hour. 1 hour is issues of public importance which can be raised by members of parliament. For example, in my area there was a flood. In my area there was a landslide. In my area there is a development that has to happen regarding railways. A road is required. Any issue of public importance. Those can be raised, and it can be raised on just with 12 hours notice. 11 o'clock the parliament will meet. So the notice has to be given that day morning up to 7 o'clock or previous day 5 o'clock. So this is the timing. And then afternoon 4 hours is legislative business. 4 hours it discusses legislative business and some issues of very utmost importance. Detailed discussion. So this is the parliament function. So any 1 hour, say for example question hour or the 0 hour. 0 hour will be the most live thing because it will be 2 to 3 minutes. The MPs across the country will be raising various issues and all of them will be able to see. So you will see how the parliament functions. You will see the questions being raised by the members of parliament. The ministers have to reply. And there are some questions on which the notice will be given in advance, but supplementary questions will be raised on the floor of the house and the minister should be ready with all information. He cannot say that I will get collected tomorrow. He has to give the information. So this is the functioning of the parliament. So this functioning of the parliament, what I mean to say is, the entire discussion that happens in the country, the joint parliamentary committee will report back to the parliament, and then the parliament will take a decision. The government will, whatever amendments the government feels, they will bring the bill with the amendments or without the amendments. The government is free to do that. So India's democratic process in the parliamentary democracy is a very vibrant process. So as students of public policy, you will know how the policy is formulated in the parliament. So this will be an experience for you. You can also, I would also suggest that you undertake trips to Delhi to see the parliament in function, in working, during when the parliament functions there. So this is how, it is a very, very democratic process. The views of the citizens directly and indirectly by the representatives, it gets discussed, parliament does it threadbare, and then the majority view is decided. So this is how this new amendment also, 129th amendment also will be dealt with. So the parliament is free either to accept or to reject. Parliament has the complete sovereign authority. So this is the context of today's topic. So that's why I would like to once again express my sincere thanks for inviting me to deliver upon such a very important topic, especially in the context of the whole country's efforts to create a developed India. So with these words, I conclude. Now the floor is open. Is there somebody who will compare that? I will stand here.